Okay, folks, good evening and welcome to it. It's another opportunity here for Frontrunner to catch up with some of our panelists from a week to week basis. Tonight, I'm joined by Greg Atafia and Kelvin Sosibo. And that's, of course, to discuss the big results from today as far as the Nedbank Cup is concerned. Sundowns pretty much sending tremors throughout the South African football scene. Sometimes I guess we don't have the perspective of how strong a team they are when they're competing on the rest of the continent. And then they come back home and put in a performance like they did, winning 4-1 against Orlando Pirates. And then we'll briefly touch on the draw that saw Baroka and Kaizer Chiefs still sit outside of the top 8 after their league game. So a strange day. We don't usually have that where you have a league game and a cup game in the same day. But, unusual times we're living in. And of course, for Mamelodi Sundowns, it's a quick turnaround for them because already on Sunday, they have to honor the next fixture in the Nedbank Cup, and that'll be against Chakuma. So let me welcome my panelists, Greg and Kelvin. Gents, thank you so much for joining me. I know you'd probably be wanting to watch, I don't know, Europa League, but we're here now. And so I don't know, do you support teams in the Europa League?
No, I just support I don't know about Kevin. Me, I support good football, but Man U forever.
Man U forever. Okay, you're also touched by the Thursday night football. You and me both. But I mean, we got Thursday afternoon football. That was quite incredible, Kelvin. Mamelodi Sundowns were pretty much nullified for one half, but once the floodgates opened, they opened. Let's just kind of see, going into this game, what was your kind of reading of it? Did you have a sense that Sundowns would have the upper hand? Or like maybe the coach, do you believe that scoreline in the end doesn't quite tell the full story and it seems a bit harsh on Orlando Pirates?
Good evening to all those who have tuned into our YouTube channel. First of all, I just want to say credit needs to go to those three gentlemen that are there, which is Mangova, Steve, and Rulani. I think they've done a tremendous job. They've outsmart themselves in terms of how they prepare, how they get the players ready, and how they actually watch games and get game insight for each and every player. Because at the end of the day, we could actually tell that everything that was on the field is translating to whatever that they're playing. From the ball retention to how they kept position to how they attacked to how they defended. Because my assumption of the match was the way that the Sundowns took the game to Pirate was the first thing they just wanted to know how, in terms of the speed that they have, that they're going to use it because they're missing Lodge, and also the incoming Babasa also was a great fit on the Pirate side. So whenever that they made an analysis on that team, it was based in terms of their strength and their weaknesses, which is what it proved on the final third. The Pirate wasn't that much of a strong in terms of closing the lines, and the overload that Sundowns always had, the Sundown had. And in the middle, what I was interested to see was the battle that happened in the middle. A lot of good battles that were there, Jules, Lebusa for Muhango, Jele for Shaulile, Mkulisi for Munare, Marco for Murena, Mabasa for Deruk, Zwane for Tyson, and Mabue for Mutwari. That for me showed that that's where the game was going to be won. So if you look at it in that sense, Sundowns applied themselves in a way that they had centre backs that could play from the back. And what they did was they dropped a little bit because they knew that they were comfortable in terms of coming up from the back and build from the middle and going up.
There we go. And Greg, I guess it is to the point that the coach kind of alluded to is how they've deployed Rivaldo Kutsia in that almost quarterback type role, where he's, dictating because he's such a good passer of the ball, what happens from the back. And like Calvin says, if you're able to build from there comfortably, the onus is then on the other team to come and find the ball.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sundowns, they have that, priority in terms of keeping ball possessions, and at the end of the game, Sundowns make 522 passes compares to Orlando Pirates 342. You can see they started from the back. Not only Kosia, you have Lebusa there, which a left-footed player, and they have the balance, which Orlando Pirates don't have in terms of the centre backs. It's very key for you to have balance in that department. So you can come out from the left centre back, or you can come out from the right centre back. These days, when you want to build up, the two centre backs are allowed to stay in the big box. So you can get the ball out, and you have Onyango too, who can play with his feet. And as you say, Koscielny is just like a quarterback. In terms of him, he came from a well-taught club. In terms of Ajax. So he has that ability to do whatever he want to do with the ball. He can play with both feet. But Sundowns on the day, I just think they were just on different level. First half they didn't step their game up. Getting that goal on the 11th minute. Through Peter Sholili, I thought it was a good display. Because if you check how the weight of the pass to him, and Pirates, they were aware of that in terms of Jelly and Tyson, but they couldn't handle his pace. That's the difference between Sundowns strikers and Orlando Pirates, but they have that interchanging, and they have that the comfortable in terms of their play, when they go to the final third. There's a little bit of acceleration when they get to the final third compared to Orlando Pirates. So Sundowns have that edge, comfortable on the ball. When they're in the final third, they don't go off the track. In terms of when I mean off the track, they don't go out of the 18-yard box. They want to play everything within the 18-yard box there, so that if you can see, they could have gotten 1 or 2 penalties, because that's the way they want to be. But if you see the Pirates strikers, they most likely drift away from the from the target, and it's unfortunately first half they were a better team, in terms of had shot on goals. Because if they take that, the one that hit the bar, and it could have been something else. That was 1-1, in that situation. If they score that one, it's going to be 2-1. But come second half, I think just step up the gear. There was some acceleration, there was some comfortable plays, and every nice shot on targets assists of the scoreline. And credit must be given to Dennis Oyango. You remember when the game was 2-1. That's where Dennis make a big save, in terms of Lebusa. It could have been own goal, Sundowns winning that, winning 2-1 at that moment. If it's 2-2 there, that was game on. So it was a good reflex save. And that was only shot on target in terms of, apart from the goal, was the tapping. That was a big, massive save. I think that was a turning point before Sundowns just, wrap up the game.
And I mean, Calvin, you listen to Greg, and it just pretty much seemed like, Sundowns were pretty much in control of their destiny. You knew that, they could score goals. If they make the mistake of letting one in, they can kind of shut shop. And like you say, when you then look at the individual performances, like Greg alludes to Nyango, in that critical moment, you don't have the sense that it was ever out of their hands. You just feel like if they were going to not win that game, it was because they were not going to pitch up. But knowing Sundowns, every game is there to be won. And that's exactly how you felt that, I don't know. It didn't feel like they were out of control at any point. Did you ever get a sense that Orlando Pirates were getting the better of Mamelodi Sundowns?
No, I think Sundowns came into this game with a very, very articulate plan. And I knew this game was going to be a very, very tactical game. And again, it proved all that they had in the Sundowns team was they had one additional person that knew Pirates in and out, which gave them an advantage in knowing the players in terms of their ability, their skills, in terms of how they defend, how they attack, what is their habits, and how they get into dangerous zone, how we deal with those. Because this game was won basically on duels. I was so happy to see a guy like Mkulisi being stuck on the middle, which made it like he kept the middle too quiet for the senior players with Makaringe, Ben Mutuari, and Munari. For a youngster at that stage to control the midfield like that, it was amazing to watch, which now shows that the panel of coaches that they have there, that's one player, some of the players that are actually well coached, that understand the game, they take instructions, they watch videos, they know what are the habits of those three musketeers on the middle, which is they've always dominated other teams. But to see a player coming in and Maboe being also an influential player on that role, it put Sundowns actually at the edge, because I could see that a goal was coming, the way that they were creating. As you saw how Sereno was getting to the final third, always getting involved in action. Also seeing the battle with Makoa and Morena, seeing a battle in the middle also with Mutuari and seeing Mutuari and Munare on the middle. That was great to watch. And Mabase coming back also pulling a goal in. It just shows that Pirates just needed to have a natural striker to actually give Sundowns the edge. The reason why Pirates never actually threatened that much is because they're playing with a floating striker. So every time when they come in the middle, what Sundowns did, they just created a block. They had an overload in the middle, so they always knew that they're going to have speed on the side, because you've got Mabue that is on the side, you've got Morena on the side. So when you have coaches like that master the game and see in terms of the weaknesses of Pirates, I think that for me, I never actually saw Pirates actually coming up to this game.
There we go. I mean, the weaknesses were well exploited by all the insights that Coach Rulani would, of course, have. But yeah, it would seem like it is a team effort going into what has to be a very quick turnaround now, Greg. I mean, there's a game on Sunday already. We know they have quality. I mean, it was evident. And maybe we can speak about the bench before we look ahead to that game, and just how this Eddie Kapinga comes in, has an impact. Hlompo Kekana comes in, has an impact. You know, the luxury of being able to win your games in, you know, the CAF competition and give players who haven't had a run in that last one, you know, they lost. But, you know, you think to yourself, Hlompo does need some game time before he can be the Hlompo who can just, you know, get on the pitch and have an instant impact and shoot from range. And what does Hlompo do the moment he gets on? He shoots from range. And shows that just having the depth that they have and the options to come off and seal the result.
For me, I mean, you know, Sundowns, they have too much quality. You know, they can rest players. You know, they can rotate wherever they feel like. But you know, in this tournament, they are in the front in terms of winning the treble now. You know, which is very important. And I don't think that we really, you know, want to let that slip. You know, because that's always their focus, you know, for them to dominate in terms of in the local league and in terms of in the continent, in terms of the Champions League. The likes of you know, Kapinga come in and deliver. Pekana, for me, I just feel like evergreen player is always, you know, a disciplined player, is always a good player. We know what he can contribute. I just think the Sundowns are trying to build, you know, without him in terms of the future. You know, that's why you see Kosia there. He can play that role easily. You know, you have Mugwe, you have a lot of players that can easily slot into that role, but they kind of give you a different dimension, which, I mean, that's why they brought him in, you know, in terms of, you know, hitting the passes to Peter, so that he can run onto it. But, you know, you always find him on the edge of the box. And sometimes, you know, it's very difficult for him not to hit the target. Out of 3 shots he always take, I think always two hit the target. And I don't know whether he has Sunderland's number. I don't know. Anytime, you know, he hit the target, he always result to a goal against Sunderland. So, but nevertheless, I think it was a good goal he scored when he came in, you know, checking the time that he came in and the contribution him and Kapinga had. I think, you know, it's a good headache for the 3 coaches now to sit down and see if there's a way they can rotate the team against Chakuma. But I think for me, you know, generally Sundowns have too much quality. You know, they have that ability, you know, to play any player they want to. It's just for you to stay in the team, because if you don't take your opportunity, other players are coming there to take their opportunity. For me, against Chakuma on Sunday, they're used to it, because, you know, normally they play Champions League, they play the league, so they're used to it. They know how to their recovering situation, and they know which players gonna step into that game and what players they need to use in that game. the good thing I like about Sundowns against Pirates, I mean, they won a lot of tackles, they won 18 tackles in the midfield, as Kevin alluded to, the midfield there was choke, and they won 18 tackles compared to Orlando Pirates 13 tackles. That shows you, that they want to win any battle in terms of the midfield. That's where they dominate Orlando Pirates. But for me, I give credit to Orlando Pirates for coming out to try to open the game in the first half. When it was 2-1, they really need to chase the game. But when it was 3-1, now they throw everything out and you expect anything can happen. It could have been another scoreline. It could have been more than 4. But I mean, you can't really, fault Pirates for opening the game. I think this Nedbank game is one of the best games, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we have seen so far, game of the season, a lot of goals, a lot of attacking play in the final third. So I just feel going to Sunday game against TTM, I think Sundowns will be ready for that game.
Okay, I mean, yeah. Let's talk about maybe the options, Calvin. When you're looking at a squad like theirs and what they were able to utilize today, you still had the likes of Gift Matupa on the bench. You have the likes of Mbala, Spusiso Vilagazi, Ricardo Nascimento. How do they shuffle the pack going into the weekend's game? Is it best team out there still, or is it mixing the pack a little bit to give players a run, considering that this is a knockout competition?
Yeah, I think Sundowns plan for all these tournaments properly. There's something called periodization. Periodization is you plan for the tournaments and you also plan for the leagues. So in that being said, I do understand that it will be a situation whereby you balance the players in terms of the freshness. So those players that actually finished the game today are the ones that are going to continue with the game maybe on the next coming match. With the energy that was shown with the players that came in as a sub, it's so hard to break into the Sundowns first team, as the coach actually alluded to that fact that you're giving each and every chance to every player. The player that raises the highest hand is the one always that gets an opportunity, even though they don't want to tweak the squad. They don't want to tweak the squad more. At least they maintain the core of the squad because that's what's getting results. They can balance it in Africa and also in South Africa, which means now in their department, in terms of their training and their method that they are using, all players are fresh mentally. And also we have not seen players cramping at Sundowns. We have not seen players being injured, which is a good sign. And credit should go to the fitness coach, because you're seeing a Sundowns that is very fit, and already we got about like 9 to 8 games left for some of the teams, and Sundowns is still on top of their fitness level. So this is very good to watch.
Yeah, peaking at the right time. I'm going to go to YouTube real quick and just pick up on some of the comments that are coming through. And big ups to everybody who's tuned in. And Dumi So Prosperity saying, guys, we saw a different Sundowns from the word go. The attitude was different. Everything was different. Labukhang Ratwana says, Dumelang Masandawana. Of course, enjoying and reveling in the victory. Mavinja asking, wasn't it Greg who said Sundowns will be stopped by Pirates? Greg, was it you? I'm giving you a chance to reply. That's all. Right of response.
The form Pirates were, coming to this game in terms of the cup game and the league. I think, if any team could match Sundowns, it's going to be Orlando Pirates, in terms of the quality Orlando Pirates have, in terms of the quality Sundowns have.
Is it a big gap, Greg? Is it a big gap after today's game, or does does maybe the scoreline, makes the gap seem bigger than it is, or should we just be honest and say, Sundowns, as far as being top and the team behind them is way, way, way behind? Or do you think the gap is not that big?
No, the gap is not that big. But what is big in terms of the depth, in terms of the players coming from the bench, that is the big one, the quality. So in terms of Pirates, when they make that changes, there's not too much effect in terms of when they are trailing in games. But, with Sundowns, when they are trailing, someone can come in and simply fit in and add value in terms of what we see with Kekana, what we see with Kapinga. You know, when Sundowns Pirate make that changes, there was no too much different. You know, it was still the same thing. There was no tempo, there was no high tempo, just the same pace. So you need your bench to be more strong, or your bench to have that ability to come and change the game one way or the other. Pirates normally do that with other games, but against Sundowns, it's just that bench. You know, when you see the 11 players, you know, cannot carry on further, you need your bench to come, because, you know, we have the luxury of having five substitutes these days, and you expect with the 5 substitute at least, you know, 3 will click or 4 will click and try to fill in that gap and try to put a good fight, you know. But the scoreline, no, you can't really talk about the scoreline, because Pirate need to chase the game. When it was 2-1, they had that big chance I spoke about, but when it was 3-1, they just have to throw everything out. It could have been 7, it could have been 6, you know. But at the end of the day, I mean, I just feel like, you know, Sundowns was too much quality in their side. There was too many calmness in terms of, if you see the goal when Kapinga scored that goal, I mean, he's looking this way and putting it in the other way. You know, I mean, you can see when they're in that area. And as I say earlier on, they always want to be in that 18-yard box, you know, edge of the box. They don't drift too much. They leave other players to do those things, you know. So if you see Peter today, if it's one thing I observe with him, he occupied the 2 center backs of Orlando Pirates, which one thing Orlando Pirates strikers didn't do in this game. You know, you always have Mango drifting away, you have Mabusa drifting away, you know, even the Pirate goal. Yeah, you can call it an assist, but I think Mango is trying to shoot there, you know, on target, and just went through, and, you know, Mabusa was there and it just tapped in. So, but if you check the Pirates, the Sundowns goals, it was many of the goals were walk goals. You know, if you're in a position can score, you lay it back, you know. And if you see the Kekana goal, which Peter, you know, you can see, which is back on the defenders occupying the 2 center back, you know that he cannot turn to shoot. He just lay to Kekana, and which Kekana do the rest.
Okay, I hear you. And then, I mean, you know, in terms of what Greg is saying, the depth, Kelvin, you know, I'll read you the subs from Orlando Pirates' side. You've got Babaso, you've got Ntambo, you've got Ndlovu, you've got, you know, Wade Yusta. You know, Greg alluding to coach Anadi Toulouse, like, would you agree with that? Because I'm looking here on more YouTube, and then, you know, Mjakata saying Pirates coach has lost too many quality players for one man. So it's chopping and changing players for the sake of game time, not for the good benefit. It may be in that point also kind of just shines a light on how critical and what a skill it is to manage a squad and be able to get maximum extraction out of players, even when not everyone is playing, right? And you got to keep that harmony, something that Sundowns seem to do better. And do you think maybe it's something that Zimbabwe was struggling with? Go Pirates.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to correct this from what the coach has actually done in this match. What the coach has done in this match, he played with 3 center backs. He played with Jele, he played with Sadrayo, he played with Nyauza. That was wrong. So he took the game in a defensive mode because of knowing the quality of Sundowns. What he could have done, at least maybe put Nyauza on the right, keep the same 2 in the middle, which is Jele and Sadrayo, and then also still have Marco. Or the idea is, what I'm seeing was the coach having 3 center backs, so that he wanted one of the center backs to overcover for Marco, because they always want to add numbers in the middle. But already they're playing with 3 midfielders on the middle, which is, you have Motswari, you have Monari, you have Mokaringe. So you're overloading the middle, but you're still losing the battle. So how does that happen in the game when you have players that can actually deal with it? Why don't you just at least maybe go on duels, where you can mostly manage the game in a proper sense, where you know each and every player is tasked to actually be on a tactical position. So if you will have Nyauza playing on the right back, I think you would have given more than him being played in the center back, because now there's too much confusion within the 3 center backs. Now, who goes and cover, who goes and press? And then what Sundowns then did, Sundowns always wanted to exploit the width play. They didn't go through the center. Now they pull them aside. That's why they were finding gaps in the middle. Now, once you neglect the center piece of the goalpost, it becomes easier for Sundowns to score those goals. And the entries you saw, they started coming from the middle, go wide, and then finishing up by going in the box. So with the comment that is made that the coach got too much quality for him in one team, I do understand that fact. The thing is now it's about how you manage those players, because you putting Mango now in a more game that has a higher tempo. Maybe if you're building the formation going up front, it was good to see at least two strikers at this point where you had your Mohango and your Mabaso, and Mabaso has rewarded him with a goal. I would have thought when Pirates come into this game, since they won 3-0 against Pangazi, so this had actually boost their confidence. They should have planned properly in terms of how they got those 3 goals. And now, looking at it now that they've lost the league already, this was the only chance for them to actually get closer on getting 2 trophies in one season. Yet now they lost this, they have to go to the drawing board and then start planning accordingly. Maybe having a natural striker is going to help them, because again, when they had a substitute with Mutambo was sitting on the middle, meaning they saw that they still, with Manare, Mutsware, Makaringe, they still lost the battle, and they still added Mutambo in the middle again. What are you trying to say? You got no desire of attacking. You only wanted to consolidate in the game, and then Sundowns had the upper hand.
Well, there we go. I mean, it must be, he kind of he looked very exasperated in the game, Coach Joseph Zimbabwe, like a man who was out of ideas. I'm going to go back to YouTube for a little bit. Barry Machiavelli just asking, is this the best Sundowns compared to the CBD one? Tulani asking, the only team I'm scared of as a Sundowns supporter is Golden Arrows. Kaeli Matlangu, you guys should know by now, Pirates is our daily bread. So there we go, man. It's obviously Sundowns fans enjoying it, and that becomes the big riddle now, is how do you unlock the Sundowns side? How do you stop this train, with all this momentum, with all the resources, all the things that even Coach Mangoba kind of admits that, hey man, we've got it good here, we've got the right environment, it's almost like you can't stop them. Everyone just needs to try and be more like them and adopt a lot of the professional approaches that they have within their structures.
And that's a good thing about them, because, whichever team they want to play in the PSL, they know how to prepare against them. If it's a team that, play a route one, they have the strikers, they have the center back, that can deal with this situation. But the good thing about them, when they are in possession of the game, in terms of when they have the possession, they don't just give it away. They always keep the possession. They try to make sure the other end in your own half, or your goalkeeper need to make a save, or the ball have to go to a corner kick. So that's one good ability and one good thing they have going for them. There's too many gifted players in terms of technique. As I said before, they have everything going for them. I think the only value and the only one, the spice they just add in this team is just Peter Shelue. When Peter came in, I think Peter is on that dimension. Peter chased lost cause. Peter chase you as a center back. You never be comfortable when Peter is around. You have that little bit acceleration in terms of his quickness. So, and when you have this scenario there, you have the Mabue, you have Zoani, which today I thought he was something else. He was the player we saw when he won the best player of the season, players, and all those accolades he got. I think today he really showed his ability, and we always knew him. He's always a top player. So at the end of the day, Sundowns, they have that too much quality. As we always know, apart from the cup game, the next game is going to be against Amazulu, which we think that's the next club that can stop them in the league. But we always hope, we can only hope, we can only say it in terms of the form of the team they're playing, or in terms of the opponent they're going to play next. But you always know they have quality to overcome any situation.
Okay, well, yeah, no, they most certainly do, and TTM will have a hard time on the weekend trying to get something out of this. But maybe whereas Pirates had the pressure and the weight of that badge on their chest, TTM with less pressure on them and less expectation mostly might go into that one and be a potential banana peel. Let's talk quickly about the Chiefs result in terms of what happened there, because obviously. We're hearing murmurs, Gavin, top 8, great opportunity to do so. Well taken goal. They looked comfy, but then at the same time, as how Chiefs can carry on and look comfortable, they can sometimes be their own worst enemy, Kelvin. Missed opportunity on their part, but at the same time, Baroka just also, that team, if you give them an inch, they'll find something and they make it count.
Yeah. I think Baroka has always been a hoodoo team for Chiefs. I think the last time when Chiefs were supposed to win the league, it was them that gave them the problem. And I think at this point, it's becoming now tedious for them that they could not actually break this team. But now, coming out from a good result into the CAF, I'm sure they were driven, and then they had the confidence for them to actually to win this game, because now there's no small teams in the PSL. All teams are actually planning accordingly, and the team that does their best homework are actually rewarded with marks. And at this point, maybe we could work in the fact that maybe some of the players now are starting to be exhausted, or maybe now combinations are not working out. But a draw is not a fair. It's not a bad score. So it gives them an opportunity to regroup and also to see in terms of how they want to sit on the log. Yes, they still have an opportunity to finish in the top 8. And I think that's the desire now. So then they're going to be looking for the new windows to sign players. At this point, with whatever that they had, they're doing so well. And they just need to keep up the momentum, because now for them, I think the bigger prize is actually the games in Africa, which now they know how much of an impact it actually has on them and how much preparedness that they need to have.
Greg, as far as momentum is concerned, we speak about them kind of being able to kind of press on and keep the pressure and, put themselves in a good, you would think they were on a high, but, they come from the weekend where a draw was good enough. And then once again, you come into another game where draw isn't good enough. Is it because of that setting of the bar that's so low? You have other teams that work to maybe a higher standard, and so that when you do fail, you land on a draw. But is it maybe just a thing of Chiefs now? The I don't want to say the mediocrity is there for all to see, but is that really what it is? It's just they're not as good as they think they are.
No, I mean, okay, where they're coming from in terms of last season, you definitely say that, okay, by now apart, if you exclude,
I think Greg, that falls out the window now. We're
yeah,
on the home straight. We're on the home straight now. We have to take them on. They've recovered. We can't go back to last season anymore. Last season is in the past.
Yes.
Yeah, because how they finished last season and what they did, taking out the CAF Champions League, you would think that they are falling below the par. But nevertheless, they went to Guinea and did the business in terms of you need to qualify, they qualify. And coming back home in terms of the local league, you expect them, to raise their hand up, because wherever Kaizer Chiefs play, I mean, they are the glamour boys, they are top, they have good players, we're trying to rebuild with new coach. But the first half of that game is nothing to write home about. I feel like, the only thing you can speak about in the first half is Oscar, the keeper of Baroka, is the only one in terms of kicking Nokovic and coming out of the ball. Because, going to this game, Kaizer Chiefs only make one change, which Nokovic came in. They kept the same back four in terms of Cunha as a goalkeeper, the midfield, and they kept everything. Nokovic was the only one that came in, and knowing Baroka well, I think Gavin planned in that situation because they want to use set piece. But we have a keeper like Oscar. You always know that he's very good. He has a good height. But first half, I mean, Can you imagine? First half, there was no shot. There was no shot on target. It was 0-0 in the first half. It was everyone was relying on set piece, which was was terrible. Second half, the game stepped up, and they got a beautiful goal. I mean, that was a well-working goal, and I'll give credit to Kaizer Chiefs. That was, and you expect them to defend that goal in terms of with the time they score that goal, you expect them to able to defend that goal, but, come again, they have their Achilles heel, which, I mean, they can't defend. They always concede. Almost every game, past 5 games now, they always concede. So you expect them we go through, and which Baroka took, and it was just unfortunately, that, they even managed to go out with with a draw, because if you see the saves Kune was making, I think, for me, Baroka could have, run away with a win in this game, but Kaizer Chiefs, again, you can say, okay, they have a game in hand. A game in hand doesn't mean that you have already got the points, in terms of the people that are ahead of them, in terms of the top 8. If they win that game, they get Chief need to step up their game. They need to do what the will be hold on the 30th of this month. So it's still a long way to go. Their focus now must be on the league now for them to finish in the top 8.
Okay, well, Calvin, I guess the silver lining also for someone like David Notwane is to look at that situation and look at the youngsters on the side of Chiefs that are, the ones that can join up with him. And of course, the likes of a Mahopa who's been brought into the squad for him to cast an eye over. That is, maybe the bigger picture, looking at that in terms of when you have a Mahopa, confidence is boosted. You almost have this thing where some of these coaches have been forced into playing youngsters, and thank goodness, because you kind of want those guys to be options for Coach Notwane going into the Olympics.
Not only an option for Notwane, but it's a plus for our national team when we see youngsters actually participating on a high level football. It gives us a lot to desire about. It actually enhances in terms of how far we'd actually go in this tournament. So when you're having youngsters actually being thrown into the deep end, and then they are producing results, it only strengthens our national team, and then it gives a good name and a good account, because the experiences these players are getting at this point, it's good for us. So being good in that sense is that when they get into these tournaments, there are players that are going to be ready. They're not going to have any stage fright. Tactical players, very aware and understand how they need to do it to go about in their business.
Okay, cool. Well, there we go. Gents, thank you very much, man. I will let you go catch the second half of whatever football's on the telly. Appreciate your time and you guys coming on here to chat. And most of all, appreciate you on YouTube for keeping the conversation going in the chat section. Clearly, the Sundowns fans are out tonight. Enjoy it. You deserve it. That was quite a performance. You don't usually see Thursday early evening South African football to blow your mind. It's not a thing that happens. So we're all, I think, still trying to process, and Sundowns fans will say they're used to it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That way you can be let to know about when these kinds of things happen again. Obviously, some of the big games, we try to get a team together as quickly as possible to discuss, and basing on availability, we'll have something come together. But our family is large and wide, and so to that end, Greg Atafia, Colvin Sasibo, thank you so much, gents. Really appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks, guys.
And to everybody who's been tuned